Sue, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So in our country, we state strongly education matters. Early education matters. We also state that teachers matter and that educating our teachers matters. So how come we don't put our money where our mouths are?
That's the million-dollar question, or maybe the billion-dollar question. I think we have forgotten the relationship between good early childhood teachers and positive outcomes, and we're learning more about that. I think the science behind early childhood is finally zeroing in on how important the teacher is, not just her education, but how well she's compensated and supported in doing her job. So I feel like we're turning a corner, and that both our populace and our policymakers are beginning to realize that without investing in high quality, well supported, well compensated teachers, we're not going to achieve the outcomes we want for young children.
That's what I wanted to ask. So beyond the unfairness, what's the effect? To put it bluntly, there are a lot of professions where folks aren't paid what they should be or could be. Why does it matter in this instance?
Well, it matters because the well-being of a teacher, particularly with young children, matters. And so when a high proportion of our early childhood educators are making poverty level wages and half of them are living on some form of public assistance, they're living in a state of scarcity. They're living under the kind of stress that has to interfere with their productivity and their effectiveness in the classroom. And there have been a few studies that have actually looked at the depression levels of early childhood teachers, and particularly those working with infants and toddlers. There was a study in Arkansas that found a very high percentage of those early educators were scored as having depression on a scale, and that's not going to be good for building bonds and relationships, having good language with young children.
Yeah.
So we have to care for our early educators.
What role does T.E.A.C.H. Early Childhood play? What does it do?
So the T.E.A.C.H. Early Childhood Scholarship Initiative provides comprehensive scholarships to the incumbent early childhood workforce. So what that means, if you're an early childhood educator in any one of our T.E.A.C.H. states, you're going to be eligible to get a scholarship to earn a basic credential, the associate degree, the bachelor's degree, and in some states, a master's degree. What I mean by comprehensive, and this is really the key and what makes T.E.A.C.H. different, is that we know our workforce. We know who they are, we know what their struggles are. And so we wrap around a system of supports that helps them be able to balance work, family, and school. So they get help with tuition and fees and books. They get paid release time. They get a travel stipend. When they finish so many credit hours, they're going to get a raise or a bonus. And so it's this kind of support. And they get a counselor, a cheerleader who's going to help them navigate the dynamic of school, work, and family.
And tell me more about the scholarship recipients. What do they look like? Where do they come from? And perhaps most importantly, what do they go on to do?
Many of them work in child care centers. Some work in family child care homes. They work in Head Start, pre-K, and child care settings. Half of our recipients are women of color or of Hispanic origin. Half are first-generation college students. Means nobody in their family has a college degree. And so that's what I mean about knowing who our workforce is in order to get success. As they go through their education and they start earning credentials and then degrees and then other degrees, we see real wage progression and career progression. And what we're just doing a longevity study, and we're learning that they don't leave. We studied graduates. We're doing a 3-year study. The first year data, 97% retention rate. So
that's quite an investment. That's an investment that keeps paying off.
Right, exactly, long term. Because once they get their degree, they are embedded in our system. They believe that they are early childhood professionals and that this is their profession.
And some of the numbers are just astounding. And correct me if I've got any of this wrong. In fiscal year 19, TEACH programs garnered over $40 million
Right.
to support over 17,000
Right.
scholarship recipients.
That's correct.
And this represents a 19% increase in funding and scholarship recipients. Why
From
the
last
ups
year.
in just one
Yeah.
year? 19%. Any investor in the market would love to have a 19% year-over-year increase. How did you do that? Or
Well,
why?
each-
What do you think's going on? Why?
So at the National Center, we license and support our TEACH programs in the various states. It's their job to raise money. And the reason that I think that they're able to raise more money is because of the outcomes. We're doing what we say we
The
will
evidence
do.
is there.
Right, it's there. And so it's exciting. We've raised with TEACH over $540 million since we started. And it's great to see. We've had 165,000 folks in our country get a chance to go to college. And now we see these people everywhere.
Well, you're going to have to rent a really big stadium for your reunion.
Oh, yeah.
160,000. Sue, thank you. Thank you for coming by the studio, and thank you for the work that you've done
thank
for
you.
all of those graduates.
Sure.